Okay, good morning. This is a class. Next week is not going to be a class. The following week is not going to be a class. So next week is Pesach, and the following week is Pesach. So it is going to be the class before Pesach. This class is based on a sikha of the Rebbe about Pesach. And the Rebbe explains beautiful concept. First of all, what the whole concept of matzah is, what you're going to be doing in Mitzvah the coming week. And the class is called Loyalty or Love. Which do you prefer, loyalty or love? And somebody answered here, love. Why do you prefer love over loyalty? When you have love, you'll have loyalty. Okay. And when you have loyalty, you don't have love. Okay. This, okay. So this is an argument. This is a philosophical argument. This actually is connected very much with the chitas that we are learning also with the chitas that we learn on today. Very connected into the Alter Rebbe's Tanya in this class, and but we're going to base it on the concept of what we eat, matzah. We're going to start off with the pasuk of the Torah, where the Torah tells us about not eating chametz and about eating matzah. So the text starts in text number 1, page 230. We have the verse in Deuteronomy. It says as follows: "Lo olav chametz." Torah says when it comes Erev Pesach this coming week on the 14th by day, when you have the mitzvah of bringing the Korban Pesach and the Beis Hamikdash, and that would start midday. So lo yisaychal olav chametz. That's one of the reasons why Pesach starts earlier. Usually every yontif starts at night. Pesach starts during the 14th by day, because when you bring the Korban Pesach, when you bring the sacrifice, you're not allowed to eat chametz. You're not allowed to eat chametz. Shimas yom techal matzah, for 7 days you shall eat matzahs. Lechem oini. It's a poor man's bread. Makes you poor, but it's a poor man. Because you went out in a haste. You left Egypt in a haste. So you shall remember all the days of going out of Egypt, all the days of your life. So, in essence, we have a concept over here, two things. Number one, it's called lechem oini. It's a poor man's bread. And loiseichal of chametz, you're not allowed to eat chametz, leavened bread. So there's leavened bread, there's a poor man's bread, and it's going out too fast. Interconnected, seemingly, all interconnected together. So let's go one thing at a time. As the Gemara teaches us, what's the meaning? Amakra, text number 2. The verse says, loiseichal olav chametz, you're not allowed to eat chametz. You're not allowed to eat leavened bread, right? Do not eat leavened bread with the paschal lamb. Rather, eat matzah, the bread of affliction. What it says, by putting together the prohibition of eating leaven with the obligation of eating matzah, the Torah tells us that matzah must be capable of leavening. Because really, you can say, don't eat leaven. Don't eat leaven for the next 7 days, 8 days. Don't eat leaven. That's it. Who says you have to eat matzah? Don't eat anything. Don't eat any bread. Don't eat any kind of flour. The truth is, you only have a mitzvah to eat matzah the first night of the second night of Pesach in Israel. It's the first night. Over here, you have to eat the first 2 nights. So that's your mitzvah. The whole week you have to eat matzah. You're obligated to eat matzah the next 6 days. No, don't eat matzah. Don't wash. You don't wash, you don't eat matzah. But the Torah tells us why. So why when the Gemara says, why did the Torah put the two together? You have a mitzvah to eat matzah. You just cannot eat unleavened bread. You have to buy matzah. Torah is telling us, the Gemara says, the Torah is telling us matzah needs to be made out of something that could become leaven. cannot eat matzah, something that doesn't become leaven. Matzah needs to be made out of 5 different grains, the Gemara say, that could become leaven. That's wheat, barley, spelt, rye, and oats. You cannot have rice matzah, because rice cannot become leaven. It can become, it does rise rice, but that is doesn't ferment. It's actually getting ruined by its rising. Fermentation, the Gemara says, is 5 grains. And in these 5 grains, you can eat matzah. Most of us have flour and water, flour, but some people that have spelt or oats, they can't eat wheat. But those are the 5 grains, that's it. The Torah is saying so in essence, to be able to eat unleavened bread, which is matzah, you need to have that. It should be able to become leavened. So matzah, called matzah shemura, because we made sure it doesn't become leaven. The truth is, that's why we don't eat matzah shruya, we don't mix our matzah and water, because the only thing that can become chametz in your house is matzah. If there's any flour left over in your matzah, sometimes you'll see the matzah is bent, sometimes you'll see there's a little bubble in your matzah, there could be flour in there, and now that can become chametz. That's why we don't, by Chabad, we are careful not to dip our matzah, not to make matzah ball soup. The only thing that can be chametz in your house is the matzah, the table at least, is your matzah. I know some people that only eat matzah only the first 2 nights of Pesach, and that's it. And then they eat a piece of matzah for when they have to make kiddush on Yom Tov or on Shabbos. That's it. They stick away from matzah. Yeah, because anything that can be chametz in your house on Pesach, after you clean the place out, if you did all this work and all this labor, what can be matzah? What can be chametz is your matzah. If it wasn't baked well, if it wasn't done correctly, can be chametz. Right? Therefore, the Torah says, in essence, to eat unleavened needs to be that it could become leaven. It's a Gemara, beautiful Gemara. And that's how we learn out the 5 things that are good for your Seder. Only, as I said, wheat, barley, spelt, rye, oats are the 5 grains that could become chametz, and those are the 5 grains that you can have matzah from. I mentioned rice. We all know the argument. If we should eat rice, it's kitnius. That's a separate issue. I'm in this class. But surely any like rice, millet, as I see, look at the Gemara. So the Gemara says, by putting them together, this exclude pseudo grains such as rice, millet, and the like, that only come to a state of decay, but not to a state of leavening, even if water is added. And that's the Gemara. So that's lechem. So that's the concept. The Torah says you shall not eat chametz, you shall eat matzah. Put it together. That's the lesson. Yeah.
Some people don't eat matzah after the first 2 days.
Correct.
But it says here that you should be eating it.
Right. So the Gemara says it's not a chayva. The Gemara also learns out from 2 different verses that it's not an obligation to eat. You could, if you're going to eat bread, you better eat matzah, but not you're obligated to eat matzah. You're obligated, if you're going to wash, to eat matzah. You can't eat anything else but matzah. But if you don't eat matzah, it's not an aveda not to eat matzah. It's the mitzvah to eat matzah is the night of Pesach. Eating matzah a whole 7 days, you're not doing a mitzvah. And that's why you don't make a bracha. The only time you make a bracha on the mitzvah of matzah is at your Seder. Before you eat the matzah, there's a bracha, al mitzvah's matzah. That you're eating the matzah, it's a mitzvah to eat at the Seder. You make 2 brachas. You make a maitzi. We can make a maitzi. Like any other bread, you make a maitzi. But it's not a mitzvah to eat matzah. It's also not a mitzvah to eat matzah even in the daytime. The only reason why you're eating matzah is because you make kiddush. Ain't kiddush makom suda. You have to have kiddush in a place of a meal. So you have to eat matzah. Because mezainis, on regular Shabbos, you can make kiddush on wine and eat a piece of mezainis. But on Pesach, you can't do that. But it's chametz. So you have to eat matzah. There's no other way. That's why if you make a kiddush in a shul, there has to be matzah. It's a very expensive kiddush. Now you have to serve everybody matzah. But you have to eat matzah. That's the only reason why you. That's why I said the mitzvah is the 2 nights of the Seder, at least in the world, besides Israel. The first 2 nights of the rest of the time, even a yontiv, you only can obligate to eat a piece. Make kiddush, eat a piece of matzah, and that's it. You don't have to sit and eat matzah, a whole time. Father in our home, my father would only let matzah right after washing, then take away the matzah. He would take away the matzah. That's it for the rest of the meal. He wouldn't allow the matzah. Because again, you'll see that in Chabad house, they eat the matzah out of a bag. Every person has their own bag. We don't put matzah on the table. We don't put matzah on the table. Because again, anything that can be chametz, it could be your matzah. And if you mix it with water, you have the problem. So that's why we didn't put out until the last day of Pesach. Last day of Pesach, the 8th day of Pesach, is when we mix our matzah in shruya, in the water. It's in the soup or whatever we eat. So, for example, not so we use paper goods. For example, in my house, in my father's home, we used to use china. And if any matzah got on the plate, he would put the plate away for the rest of the Pesach. He wouldn't use it for the Pesach. So he was very strict in this. And therefore, he didn't want any matzah to be on the table. So when the plates are served, any matzah can get on the plate. So that's why, as I said today, Baruch Hashem, we have plastics. If any matzah gets on a plate, we throw it out anyway. So it makes life much easier concerning this concept. So I have a lot of guests over, and they're using the matzah on the plate. So I don't care. It's going to be thrown out anyway. It's not that it becomes chametz. It's just a precaution, so to say. It's not that anything becomes chametz, because most Jews do mix their matzah with water, like matzah bowl soup or whatever they eat on the table. They don't care. But we are machmer. Chabad is more machmer. So we're more precaution in this aspect, not to mix our matzah with any water through the entire Pesach, until the last day of Pesach. But ultimately, these are the connection. Interesting concept, interesting connection that it needs to be, it has to be unleavened, but it has to be an object that could become leavened. We think, why don't you just get unleavened? That's it. Only eat rice cakes on Pesach. That would be the best matzah, because it cannot become leavened. No, the Torah says, no, I want to have flour and water. I want flour and water. And why? Because flour and water could become leavened. And I want to make sure that it's not leavened. That's why, again, it's called matzah shmura again, because it's even machine matzah today is in 80 minutes, and they make sure that it's protected, that it didn't have a chance even to become into a leaven, right? But that's why the Rebbe always wanted, at least for your Seder, you should eat matzah shmura, means handmade matzah, because it shows on the labor. That a machine does not labor in the concept of making matzah. The labor of a Jew in making matzahs is handmade matzahs. Matzahs that are made by the physical hand, the labor of a human being. And you'll understand more the beauty of this concept in this class. Why the Rebbe wanted that Jews should eat shmura matzah on Pesach, especially for the Seders, and that's why he asked us to give out matzah, make sure that at least they eat a kazayas, which is around half a matzah, or really a quarter of a matzah at the Seder for shmura matzah. So even though they have machine matzah, which is kosher, but they should eat a kazayas of shmura matzah. That means handmade matzah that was rolled out by the hand, done everything by hand. The mixing of the water and flour, everything was done by hand from A to Z, was all done through the physical labor of a person, not a machine, but through the person itself. Because there's something in this matzah, in the shmura matzah, that the concept of labor and of work and of making sure that it doesn't become leaven is important to the aspect of what this matzah wants to bring out. What the matzah wants to bring. Okay, we'll get to that as we understand first the law a little bit. So we know flour and water make something leaven. What about making matzah? What about making flour and juice? It's liquid. So the Gemara says, continuation number 3, the next thing, why did the Torah say the lechem of a poor man? Anybody know a flour and water? What is this matzah? It's unleavened. It's a matzah, flour, water. What is it? So why does the Torah need to tell us lechem oini? What does the lechem oini come to tell us? Well, who cares if it's lechem oini or it's not lechem oini? Why did the Torah say lechem oini? So the Gemara says, "Prat leisa shenishla beyayin v'shemen udvash." The Torah would say there's a lechem oini and there's lechem oisher. There's a lechem of a poor man and there's a fruit. There's a lechem of a rich man. The lechem of a poor man is flour and water. The lechem of a rich man is flour and juice. So, therefore, we eat matzah that's made out of flour and water. Even though you can find matzah, or you can make matzah out of flour and apple juice. Same thing. But it won't, I never, what?
Never seen a box of it on the grocery store.
You could do it. And because they're giving you the matzah that you're going to eat.
Half shelf. For the goyim.
But the Gemara says, but the Gemara answers, the Gemara in text number 4, the Gemara answers, he says a rich man's matzah is kneaded with fruit juice, and fruit juice doesn't leaven. So the Gemara says, in essence, that we have the same problem. Even though it'll taste better, maybe, it'll be much more tastier. Yeah, take some apple juice, take some orange juice, mix it together with flour. That's why some people eat mazonis bread. It's not made out of water. It's not flour and water. What's mazonis bread? It's made out of juice. So you can make bread out of juice. They do that. Why don't you make matzah? So matzah made with that point is actually better, more tastier. Why don't we do it? Because ultimately it's not the same problem. Just like there's certain flours that don't, like rice, doesn't ferment. Flour and juice is not going to ferment, doesn't leaven, and therefore it's out of the run. We need to have something that's going to leaven, and that's going to and you're going to make sure it doesn't leaven, and that is flour and water. And that flour and water, you're right, is a mixture that's not going to leaven because it's lechem oini, because it's a poor man's flour. You can put the two together. And a meal of flour that that leavens, but you're not going to make sure it leavens. Anything that doesn't leaven, it might be a tastier entity. It's not going to be good for your seder. Okay, it's not going to be good for this concept. But ultimately, you could make matzah out of juice. It's not going to leaven, but it'll be matzah. And it'll be tastier matzah. It would be a tastier matzah. Do the regular matzah, but that's why we don't do that. Problem. If you don't care about wetting a matzah on Pesach, you don't got a problem. If you have a care about wetting a matzah on Pesach, then you can't do it. So yeah, it depends what your custom is, what your minig is. Not deciding on what the minig should be. That's gebrachs and non-gebrachs. So Chabad doesn't eat gebrachs, and most of the world does eat gebrachs, but Chabad doesn't eat gebrachs, and they're very machman gebrachs. So we are very stringent on gebrachs, and we make sure not to eat gebrachs. And gebrachs is if any matzah, for example, by us, if a matzah will fall into a pot or a plate that has water, we would put it, not that the plate becomes chametz, but we wouldn't use that plate anymore during Pesach. We'd put it away and we'd wait for next year to use it. For example, for me, we do matzah balls on the last day of Pesach. So in essence, we make all our dishes gebrocks. If we cooked it, you have to make matzah ball. You have to cook the balls in the pot, and you have to ultimately. And if you're not using plastic, so then we put all the dishes away till next year. That's not a problem. The next day we're putting all the dishes away till next year, and that would suffice the situation. It's kosher lePesach. I didn't say that. I said for Chabad we wouldn't eat matzah balls, not because it's not kosher lePesach. It's 100% kosher lePesach, but it's a chumrah. It's a stringency that we want to make sure. Again, because to even say that the matzah come chum, it's very difficult because anything that's cooked already, baked already, you can't bake it again. So really, it's a very big chumrah. It's an extremely stringent thing that we do. A high bar stringency. Correct. That's why I think only Chabad and Meshuggahim that don't do it, but the rest of the world does it. We're Bachmer, super delupa. But that's a separate story. That's a separate concept. So really to comprehend this, it's beautiful halacha. We just learned a beautiful law in the Gemara and halacha. Ultimately, that's the Jewish law. Really, the Quaker, why? But still, what is the connection? Why is it so important to have that we have matzah that is leavenable and not leavened? I mean, if we're looking to go away from unleavened, really, let's not have anything that can become leaven. Why would the Torah tell you to have something that comes leaven and it shouldn't be leaven? Why do we say don't have any leaven, no flour and water? You want to have matzahs, make it out of juice matzah. That will be the best. It doesn't become leaven. It will be more tastier. It will charge more money. It'll be tastier. It will be tastier. It cannot become leaven. So you got it all. You got a better matzah. It's a rich man's matzah. It's a better matzah. It's not going to become leaven. What's the problem? It's the perfect matzah. Isn't that the perfect matzah? A matzah that cannot become leaven. It's tastier. And you got everything in one package. Why would the Torah saying the opposite? No, I want you to dafka eat flour and water, which can become leaven. Imagine if you only hatched matzah that was made out of we would be able to eat matzah ball soup because it can't become leaven. We would be able to all celebrate, have matzah ball soup and not worry about matzah shruya, gebrocks. It will be a gewaltige Zach. It will be unbelievable. No, the Torah says no. That's to make everything difficult. The Torah says no. I want you to have flour and water that can become leaven, and now you shouldn't make sure it doesn't become leaven. So what is the connection? Really, what's the connection? Because you ran out of Mitzrayim. What does that have to do with the whole picture? How does that get into the story? How does that? Because they ran out of Mitzrayim has to do, they should eat this kind of matzah. What is the connection in that too? So that's the Rebbe is going to answer, and we'll be able to have a beauty in this concept of matzah. So the Rebbe says as follows. The Rebbe goes into this concept. So to really understand the halacha, we're going to go through why we need to eat matzah. What's the real purpose of matzah? What is the real reason why God wanted us for 7 days to eat matzah? What is the real concept? Well, it's just Mitzrayim. We could celebrate with a Seder and everything, but what is this concept that God wants us to keep away from unleavened, which creates a havoc to every Jewish wife? And every one of us that has to make sure to get rid of our chametz, etc., and only eat matzah. So the Gemara says as follows. The Rebbe gives a beautiful thing. That what does leaven represent? What is the concept of leaven? So Rabbi Alexander, the Gemara brings down. It says Rabbi Alexander, after he would pray, Rabbi Alexander would say a prayer. His prayer would be, "Master of the universe, it is revealed and known before you that we want to fulfill your will." Right? I just daven. I just pray. I just prayed. Right? I'm in a holy mode. And I feel good. And I turn to God and I say, well, listen, Alexander turned to God and said, listen, you know that we want to do what you want. And what prevents us? So what happens? Why do we always mess everything up? Because a yeast in the dough and the oppression of the nations. the yeast in the dough. And the oppressions of the nations. That means the inner conflict is the yeast of the dough. The oppressions of the nations is the outer conflicts. We have inner conflicts and we have outer conflicts. What's the inner conflicts? Is the yeast of the dough. What's the yeast of the dough? So we'll come to the next one. The Maral explains this Gemara. May it be your will that you deliver us from them. That's a two trouble. Please deliver us from the yeast of the dough. Deliver us from the nations, so that we'll be able to fill your edicts with a perfect heart. That was his prayer after davening. Beautiful prayer. So the Gemara said, not the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, the Maram of Prague, he says the metaphor meaning of the yeast of dough is based on Maimonides' teachings in Seduction and Remarks of Ethics of Our Fathers. He writes that in matters of character and conduct and preferred path in the golden mean, the middle path, our evil inclination prompts us to indulge in extremes like excessive haughtiness and indulgence. Rabbi Alexander compares to the evil inclination to yeast in the dough. The ego is the ego, the inflatable ego. That is our personal struggles, our inflatable ego. We think we're smarter. We think we know everything. We think we're right. Ego. That's the yeast. That's the leaven. Leaven is yeast. We know? Leaven is yeast. It's bringing milk, bringing water and flour together is automatically going to trigger the inner yeast even in the flour. You don't have to even add yeast. It's going to ultimately trigger fermentation. This is what he prayed for. I pray that the yeast in the dough, if you can help me control my ego. My ego. To the yeast of the dough, because it expands the dough to a state that which is much larger than its natural disposition. So that's Alexander's prayer. His prayer is, please God help me that I should be able to control my ego. My inner conflict. If I was humbled, if I had no ego, no problem. I wouldn't have an issue. It's my ego that doesn't let me live. Rabbi Yosef Soloveitchik, of blessed memory, said, the inner desire to fulfill every mitzvah and to avoid all sins, this is our natural desire. This is what the Alter Rebbe calls your Ava Misuteres. This is what the Alter Rebbe calls your hidden love, your natural desire. See, by mistake, people think that our natural desire is to do negative. That's not true. It's not true. Our natural desire is to do good. Our natural desire, instinct, our true instinct is to do good. Not only to be good people. Our true instinct is to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that's our Ava Misuteres. That was given to us as an inheritance of Avram Yitzchak, Avram Avinu, who gave all of us the natural desire to serve God with chesed, with love. That's our true nature. Now you might be looking at me and say, okay, I don't know. But that's the way Chassidus, that's the way Chassidus looks at every person. That not he has a natural desire of negativity, and now he has to impose upon his natural. No, his true natural desire is to do good. His true natural desire is to do what God wants him to do. It's hidden. It's called, as I called it, Ava Misuteres. It's a hidden love. What's revealed? What is the natural? What is my revealed love? Is to the world. What I call natural desire. That's not really my natural desire. That was given to me by the world. What is my true nature? Is my godly, is my love of God. That's my true nature. You got that? It's very important to, that's the Alter Rebbe's Tanya of these days. Right? You have the concept of where a Jew does the service to God because he's a Jew. Not he has great intellect, not he has great emotions. He does the service of God because he's a Jew. And a Jew does what he's supposed to do. Not because he understands it, but because he does it, because that's what he does. Yeah, you with me? You look a little perplexed.
The intellectual.
Right.
The spiritual.
Versus the instinct kavana. The animal, right? The animal, the animal, the positive of the animal, right? Usually we explain the animal as a negative, but over here the Alter Rebbe is explaining these days that the positive of the animal is that it's instinctive. It doesn't have free choice. A Jew doesn't have really free choice. He does. See, his free choice is, even though I don't feel it, I'm doing it because of my free choice. But really, it's because he has a love of the Eibishter. It's instinct. So there was an expression the Alter Rebbe said, "A Yid nicht ken or nicht will." A Jew, not he could and not he wants to be cut off from God. It's not possible. It's who he is. That's loyalty. That's loyalty. Loyalty is not that I have a love to it. I'm committed. The very important thing in a marriage is to be loyal. It's to be committed. Baruch Hashem. No, but you can't.
Oh, I get that.
But no, in a good way. But ultimately, you need to have love. Because commitment is not gonna last forever. Your commitment that you have loyalty is not gonna last forever. You need love. But to begin with, for sure, you need to have loyalty. Because love is something that will grow. Love is something that will be challenged and will come and go. So our evil inclination prompts us to indulge in extremes. I'm sorry, go back. So you have go further, I'm going back. This he brings down from Rabbi Yosef Soloveitchik, right? So is revealed, so as a Rabbi Alexander said, it is revealed and known before you that we want to fulfill your will. And what prevents us? The yeast in the dough and the oppression of the nations. So that's in the prayer of Alexander. The prayer of Alexander was that that's what I really want to do. I'm a Jew, and I'm a Jew that wants to serve God. Who doesn't want to serve God as a Jew? That's the beginning of his prayer. Strenuous is influenced by the evil inclination and the oppressions of the nation. That's it. So that's the second. My second nature is my Yetzirah, or the influence of the world that tells me, no, you're a human being. You're a human being. You're not only a Jew, you're a human being. Humanity comes before your Judaism. After completing the daily Amidah prayer, Rabbi Alexander would pray that we merit to conduct ourselves in accordance to our inner and true desire, to fulfill every mitzvah and to avoid everything. This is what the Alter Rebbe says. We're learning. Beautiful way it's expressed over here. So Rabbi Yanai, in essence, Rabbi Alexander, I keep calling Rabbi Yanai. Alexander, in essence, set a very high bar. He turned to God. He said, please help me out that I can serve the Eibishter from my instinct, from my basic nature, which wants to serve God. What was his prayer? His prayer was, I want to serve God from who I am really, what I am really. I'm really part of God. I really want to serve you. That's my essence. But the problem is, I got inner interference that's trying to interfere with who I really am. And I have outer interference. I have outer interference in nations of the world, society, whatever you want to call the nations, whatever you want to call that. And I have inner different. What's my inner different? My ego, my own ego. My own ego. You know what? You're something. You are something without that. You're something. You have your own identity. What do you mean? Your essence is serve God. Your essence is to serve yourself. That's what you're here for. We struggle with the ego, with our own ego. How do you achieve that? So how does one achieve that concept? How do we get out of the inner ego? How do we overcome this struggle? So here the Rebbe says, those are the two matzahs. Those are the two matzahs. We have the matzah, lechem oini, the matzah of affliction, right? Which has no taste, has no flour and water,
Just like cardboard.
tasteless,
Tastes just like cardboard.
delicious,
In a box.
delicious cardboard. It's unbelievable. We spend a lot of money for this delicious cardboard. And we eat this. We eat this matzah. Every Jew is eating matzah, Baruch Hashem, on Pesach. Why? Because it's a mitzvah. The proof is, the second after Pesach is over, you can't even sell this matzah to anybody for a quarter of the price, right? You can't give it to somebody for free. They won't even take it. So you're right. We're all doing it, mamish. We're doing it for the mitzvah. We're Parsha doing it for the mitzvah. We don't see it. There's no taste. There's no taste in it. It gives you a heartburn. It gives you digestive issues. It's a mitzvah. That's what God wanted. That's what the Eibishter wanted. Everybody's going out. It's amazing. You know, from the time I came to Boca to today, how much shmur matzah is being sold in this city alone. It's truly amazing. Thousands and thousands of pounds of matzah are being sold daily over here. People are eating shmur matzah. Years ago, we would actually sell shmur matzah. Today, you can buy shmur matzah in Costco. So that's the cheapest, actually, shmur matzah today is in Costco. So
They only sell it by 100.
no, they sell by the box. No, they sell by the box. I think it's $13 a pound in Costco. So you can get shmur matzah today in Costco. Costco sells shmur matzah. And you can get it in any other place matzah. And you'll realize that you should get it, some places already sold out of matzah. So you see, matzah is all available everywhere. Shmur matzah is available, Baruch Hashem, everywhere. People are eating more and more shmur matzah than they ever ate. And, that's why, it's because it's free. Come to Chabad, we'll give you free too. So hopefully you're doing it for the mitzvah. So the Rebbe says in text number 6, that's how the Rebbe explains it. Matzah represents self-discipline and bittul. Bittul, self-nullification. Because it doesn't inflate or rise. Rather, it's submissive and low-key. This represents the solution of the suppression of our outer desire. It is achieved by an actively restraining and unfettered expansion of our ego-based desire and apting itself for humbleness, the opposite of leavening and rising. But matzah, right, is tasteless compared to leavened bread. Who would buy bread if it tastes like cardboard? The two concepts go hand in hand. Those who are humble are willing to submit to God, even if they don't understand and enjoy it. They rein in their inclinations and don't indulge in their passions. So that's matzah lechem oini. That's a person who says, I am an oini. Not because I'm an oini, I'm poor, because I'm going to become an oini. Become poor, so to say. I don't matzah that tastes good. Why? Because I want to do, because I know what means the concept of nullifying myself, of giving over myself, right? Most of us do, like I said, why are you doing this for? You see the beauty in the mitzvah matzah. You understand the great revelation that happens when you eat matzah. You're doing it because it's a mitzvah. it says in the Torah, so it says in Jewish law, to eat matzah made out of flour and water. That is tasteless. Because that's the mitzvah. And Baruch Hashem, all Jews are going to come together in a week, less than a week, and they're going to sit down together, they're going to eat matzah. It doesn't make a difference whether it's a machine matzah or handmade matzah. Both of them are basically tasteless. And they're going to sit down. And we're going to sit down to the Seder. And we're going to eat this matzah. We're going to say, you know what? We don't know why we don't see the beauty. We don't feel the beauty. We don't comprehend the beauty. We're doing it because it's a mitzvah. Because God asked us to do it. And that's what we're going to do it. The Jew that doesn't have the beauty, doesn't have the great comprehension, but does it, as the Alter Rebbe explained in Tanya, does it because he's a Jew. That's what a Jew does. A Jew gets together on the 14th at night and they eat matzah. That's what a Jew does. Are you with me, my friends? Those on Zoom, are you with me? The Rebbe continues and says 7:1. The Rebbe continues, if you serve God, but the problem is there's something missing. And that is, if you serve God only out of loyalty, without understanding and reason, and without deriving pleasure from it, you ultimately have to move up the rung. You ultimately have to become the Jew who comprehends a little bit, who has some emotions a little bit. You can't just eat matzah your whole year. Imagine, why don't we eat matzah a whole year? If we're supposed to be humble, let us eat matzah the whole year. God should say, you know what? Let's get rid of leaven. No more leaven. You want humility? Eat matzah the whole year. That'd be the right thing to do. We want humility. No, the Avish says we need to reach up. You need to come. You need to develop yourself. You need to become part of the mitzvah. I want the Jew to be part of the mitzvah. I want his emotions. I want his intellect. I want that he should have some enjoyment. I just don't want to have Kabbalah sell, accept the yoke of heaven. I want you should do it out of joy. I want you should do it out of pleasure. You should have tainug. You should have delight. So that's why the Rebbe says, if you serve God only out of loyalty, without understanding the reason and without deriving pleasure from it, and you still enjoy worldly pleasure, you can possibly slip up and indulge in negative behavior. It is only the power of discipline that keeps you in line. I'm sorry, I'm still in the discipline. The Rebbe is actually still in the discipline. Right? So that Rebbe wants to be a different point. I'll go back. We're going to go back in a minute to that point. I thought we'll get back in a minute. So the Rebbe actually wants to say that we always need to keep that discipline. Because why? When you're in the discipline mode, then you can always slip. You can always become leaven. When you're in the discipline mode, then you always can become leaven. And you have to make sure to become leavened. You always can become leavened. That's why this bread, this lechem, right? This going back to the beginning of the class. That's why this lechem needs to be what? Unleavened that can become leavened. In the discipline mode, you always can slip. Who can be in the discipline mode on a constant basis? So you always can slip and you can become leavened. Why? Because you haven't transformed your nefesh habahamid. You haven't transformed your ego. You just confined it. You just overpowered it, right? Like I said, you're not over here changing the way you feel. You're just doing it because you got to do it. You're just doing it because that's who you are. So therefore, the ego always can come back. The ego always can come back. Ultimately, you say, what am I doing over here? Why am I doing it? What am I a machine over here? Am I just a machine? This whole Yiddishkeit is tasteless. This whole concept has no taste. It's all about obedience. It's all about loyalty. This is what life's all about. that I have to be loyal, even though things are not, I don't see the beauty, I'm not feeling love. I'm supposed to just have loyalty. So therefore, since we're in that mode, we're in a mode that is unleavened, but it could always become leavened. And therefore, it's called Shmura Matzah. Because it's matzah that's unleavened, but it always can become leavened. And we always need to keep it down. How do you make sure that matzah doesn't leaven in a matzah bakery? From when the moment the flour comes together with the water, we need to knead the matzah, shmura. We need to make sure that this dough doesn't rise. And until it gets into the oven, which needs to be before the 18 minutes, which happens even earlier than 18 minutes if you're in a matzah bakery, but it needs to get in there before the 18 minutes. It needs to be constantly kneaded. The matzah needs to be kneaded by human hands. It needs to be kneaded and then ultimately rolled out and then ultimately made holes in it and then ultimately put into the oven. Not so when one serves God, really understanding and truly enjoying it. When a person, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, when a person serves God because he's a tzaddik, there he loves God. He understands why he loves God. He comprehends why he loves God. He's like the matzah that's made out of juice. Leaven. He's never going to leaven. Why he's not going to leaven? Because he loves God. How is he going to leaven? He's not serving God out of dust because the loyalty. He's serving God because he loves him. So how is he going to leaven? We'll get there in a minute. Good. Yes. True. We need both. That's the ultimate. We need to ultimately start off our journey maybe with unleavened, and then ultimately reach up to the leaven. To not leaven. That's not good. We need to reach up to the level of the matzah of the rich, that it has juice in it. It's not going to leaven. Can't leaven. Because he loves God. How can he leaven? The first level of a Jew is where it could leaven. Because he doesn't love God. He's doing it out of force. He's doing it out because that's what he's got to do. And that can leaven. When he reaches up to the matzah that is made with juice, that's called the matzah of the rich. You have nothing to worry about being leavened. It cannot leaven. In this case, his mind and his heart are prevented from transgressing God's will. You have no desire for it. So therefore, he'll never leaven. So that's what the Rebbe continues, 7b. One who serves God with a luxury matzah approach, with understanding and feeling, will not indulge in leavening and negativity, just like the luxury matzah, fruit juice matzah, cannot ferment. Serving God with ordinary matzah approach, with discipline and loyalty, allows for the possibility of leavening and negativity, just as ordinary matzah, water and flour, has the capacity of ferment. Therefore, need to prevent the negativity by not allowing the rising of leavening through constant, diligent effort and self-engagement. And that's why we call it matzah shmura again. It needs to be watched. Matzah that is watched.
And
Watched.
Watch.
Shmura. Protected. Watched. It is watched. A lot of work is put into this matzah. That's why it is expensive. Because a lot of work is put into this matzah. This matzah doesn't come out simply. From the time of the cutting of the wheat until it got to your thing, a lot of work was done. A lot of physical hand labor was involved in the creation of this. Now the Rebbe explains, now you understand why the Torah puts together Ki Baruch Ha'am. People ran. Right? Connection of the people ran. So the Alter Rebbe says, he brings down the Alter Rebbe's statement. Text number 8. With respect to exit of Egypt, the Torah states that the nation fled. Why does the Torah tell us that? The nation fled. The surface, this is surprising. Why was fleeing Egypt necessary? Was Pharaoh not compelled to let them go? Why did they need to flee? They ran. That's why he chased them. But why did they need to flee? Ultimately, seemingly, he wanted to let them go. Why does it mention over here? It actually says, when Mashiach comes, you won't have to flee. Won't flee. And when they went to the Mitzrayim, they did flee. When the Mashiach comes, we won't flee. Why? The answer is, the Alter Rebbe is that it was spiritually escaped. They were Parsha running away from their own self. Self were afraid of the impurity of Egypt. They realized that they were still connected. You can take the Jew out of Egypt, but you can't take the Egypt out of the Jew. And we know that was affected them in their journey. So they were connected to Egypt. They had still the connection to Egypt. So they were not totally pure and rectified people. And that's why it says, was still strong within them. It did not cease until the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. But we even know, even if the Torah was given on Mount Sinai, we know that it still affected them. That's why we're still going out of Egypt. We still haven't left Egypt totally. We're still running out of Egypt in a way. That's what we celebrate. We're going out of Egypt because it's a concept where the Eibishter gave us the capability that even though we're still connected to Egypt, right? Even though we're still connected to negativity, we still can run out of Mitzrayim. We need to run out of Mitzrayim. And that's the first level where we're still connected. We still have an Nefesh Bahamas. We still have an animalistic soul. But we're running towards what is right. We're running. We are running towards the service of God. Even though we still have one foot still in the other place. We're still connected to our desires, our ego, so we do bittul, we do self-nullification. We overcome our ego, we overcome our desires, we put it aside, and we do what is right. That's the connection. That's why this whole concept. Someone asks a question. That's why this whole concept of the Jews running out of Mitzrayim is connected to lechem oini, to the lechem oini, the bread of affliction, to the person who is doing something not because he's rich in spirituality, he's rich in intellectual understanding, he's rich in avas Hashem, in love of God. He's doing it because he's overcoming his own self. You might say, ultimately, what's the ultimate purpose? The ultimate purpose is to eat matzah of the rich. That's the ultimate purpose. To eat matzah that is mixed with juice. I mean, that's the ultimate purpose. That's all. Right? So we don't have to worry about it. So why don't we just go to that? Why are we teaching ourselves in this first level? Why don't we do chatchila? Let's go to the second level. Please do it. Let's not eat matzah mixed in water. Let's make matzah specifically out of juice, so that would show that we are in the highest level. We're in a level of love of God. We have nothing to worry about fermentation. We're just in the level of love of God. And maybe we'll get to that level by doing that. Maybe we should do that. Let's be in a level of love of God. Let's skip the water and the flour. Let's go straight to the apple juice, and we'll celebrate Pesach with matzah that cannot become leaven. That is symbolic of the tzaddik who is totally in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why do we, even the tzaddik ultimately eats the matzah that all of us eat. The tzaddik himself is eating the matzah that is made out of flour and water and is symbolic of the poor man, of the Jew who is still in the struggle. Why do we do that? The Rebbe says, no. Look at what the Rebbe says. Because there's an element in the loyalty. Because even if you are a Jew that is a matzah juice Jew, you are a rich man Jew, the matzah with that cannot become leaven, you still understand the importance of the matzah that can become leaven. Because the beauty of the struggle, understand? There's something beautiful in the loyalty, in the bittul. That even the tzaddik who loves God and seemingly doesn't need bittul, doesn't need to have humility because he's in love with God. What's his problem? He's never going to become leaven. But he realizes that there's something beautiful in bittul when a person nullifies himself. Doesn't do everything because he comprehends and because he understands and because he has great love, but because it's the command of God. That there's something beautiful in that concept. And we say this to Rabbah. The Gemara says Rabbah was a great sage who said, I wish I can daven like a child davens. Rabbah, there was a great sage who understood the beauty of davening. He understood the beauty of praying to God and the connection to God. He understood it well and clear. He said, no, I wish I can daven like a child. The simplicity of a child. You tell a child to daven to God, he davens to God, not because he comprehends, not because he has great knowledge, not because he has great feelings, because he daven to God. He does it with its simplicity. He does it because he was told. Abba said there's something great in that concept. Something beautiful, something pure, right? As the Alter Rebbe says, there's something pure in the Ava Misoteres, right? There's something pure. There's something that is untainted, because even in this, when you serve God with the most, you have unbelievable intellect, and you are as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, or as great as Rabbah, or as great as Avraham Avinu. It's still you. The simplicity is not about you. Right? The Ava Misoteres, the instinct is not about you. It's about who you are. It's not about you. It's about God. And that's the beauty of the simplicity. That's the beauty of the Jew. That's not the matzah Jew that is with juice, that cannot become leaven. The beauty of the Jew that could become leaven and doesn't become leaven because he works on it and he overcomes it. And he makes sure not that's something more pure in that Jew than in the holier Jew. That's the beauty of us. That's why, like you said before, we need both. Even if we reached up to the level of being the Jew that is love of God and comprehension of God, we should never forget our days. That's what God says. God says, I'll never forget the Jews going out of Mitzrayim, running out of Egypt. I'll never forget that they themselves didn't have a Torah, they didn't have any great revelations. They had a yearning that was not based on anything. They had no mitzvahs. They ran out of Mitzrayim because of themselves. They themselves ran out of Mitzrayim. If to give me the Torah, you could say, I'm running out of Mitzrayim because I have a Torah. Because I have a mitzvah, here the Jews ran out of Mitzrayim without anything. Actually, you say in your Haggadah, you're going to come together, you were naked, you were void, you had nothing. And nevertheless, you ran out of Mitzrayim, you ran out of Egypt. The truth is, that's why you understand, only 1/5 ran out of Mitzrayim. So you understand that it was not so easy. It was not so easy. So here God says, I remember that. Because you were running to no place. You were running to no place. Today we're running to some place. They were running to no place. They were running into a desert. They were not running to Israel. They were not running anywhere. They were just running. right? So we ran, but we had no culture yet of our own. We had nothing of our own. We had nothing. Ran into a desert that was worse than Egypt, right? Because it's like you say, it's better than what I know than I don't know. And I ran into a desert. I ran to another city. Ran into a desert, not knowing where the food's going to come, etc., etc. That's the beauty of simplicity. They knew where they were running. Moshe Rabbeinu knew they're going to go to Matan Torah, and they knew where they're running. The Jewish people ran. And no comprehension where they're running. They ran because David said run. They ran. That's why when it came to 7 days later, Moshe Rabbeinu, the God says, why are you stopping? By your soul, keep on running. What happened to the running? What happened to 7 days ago when you ran? Now suddenly you're contemplating. Keep your running. The beauty is you kept your movement, not because you understood it, you comprehended it. The beauty is that you kept on movement, because I asked you to move forward. That's the beauty. Even though you don't know what, you don't understand how, that is something beautiful within that concept.
It's difficult to remember or to recognize what's of the beautiful world we commercial on anti-Semitism this week, and it showed a little blue spot, this little blue thing, and it was 2%. And it's hard for us to remember sometimes that we are but 2%, 98% of the other people.
Right.
We are a little pishka on.
Far from a little pishka. We're far from that little pishka. Okay, right.
No, we are a big pishka in our influence, and that anti-Semitism exists.
There's an element in loyalty that Rebbe writes, Alter Rebbe writes, I'm sorry. Disciplined Jews that is better than those who have formed a desire. That don't, even though we all want to reach the level of transformation of desire from negative into good, but we should never forget that greatness of overcoming our desires. Although disciplined Jews have yet to transform their desire, they have set themselves and their interests completely aside. And that's the beauty. The beauty of a Jew who did not transform his desires, yet put aside his desire. That's the beauty of discipline. That's the beauty of loyalty. I'm not there. I don't love you, but I'm loyal to you. I'm loyal. I might not love you. I might not know why I should love you. I might not feel the love, but I'm loyal. And that's what the Jews showed when they went out of Mitzrayim. And that's what we show every year when we come together to Seder and we all eat matzah. We say to the Eibishter, we're loyal. Loyal. That was the prayer of Rabbi Alexander. That was his prayer. That halavai we can keep this loyalty. Halavai we can keep up with this loyalty, but we can't. And that's why we need help. And that's why also Pesach is only 7 days. Because after that, you got to go eat the matzah. You got to eat the chametz. You got to come to the next level of enjoyment. But never forget the matzah. That's why there is a tradition by great tzaddikim that they would eat matzah every Matzah Shabbos. They would eat matzah. It was this custom to eat matzah. My father used to make matzah bra. We used to eat matzah every Matzah Shabbos. So as we go into week, because Shabbos is, again, you're going out of bondage. And every week you're going back into bondage in a way. And therefore you ate the matzah to remember that loyalty is going to keep us going. Not always great understanding, great emotions is going to keep us, but loyalty. So that's the beauty. That's the Alter Rebbe that said the beauty. So let's look at text number 11. The Maral in Prague also says, the luxury bread has oil and honey. It's the rich person's bread because it enriches by oil and honey. The poor person has no money. He has only himself. Ordinary mitzvahs is a poor person's bread. because it's like a poor person. It has no extras, just flour and water. This is the idea of redemption. Redemption means to be free, not to be chained to anyone. Unlike a slave who is not free to be alone because he's bound by his master. Similarly, wealthy people are not alone. They are bound by their possessions. This is not freedom. The poor person who is not chained to possessions is independent and free. Let's not try this at home. But it's true. But it's true. But it's true. My ben nechasim, my ben daiga. The Gemara says you have more possessions, you have more headaches. So though there's something special about the complete eradication of luxury, of a luxury matzah Jew, negative impulse, there's also something, the Rebbe says, special about the ordinary matzah Jew. Namely this, the fact that they toil continuously to wrestle with their evil inclination and to control their evil impulse. Therefore, our sages tell us, as we come to the end of this, I got to finish. Text number 13, the Rambam writes, the sages and the prophets did not yearn for the Messianic era to have dominion over the entire world, to rule over Gentiles, to be exalted by the nations, or to eat and drink and to celebrate. Rather, the desire is for freedom, to be fully engaged in the study of Torah and in the wisdom without any pressures or disturbances. At that time, good will flow in abundance, and all the delight will be freely available as dust. Yet the entire world's sole occupation will be to know God. And that's why the Rebbe writes, ending off this thing, the primary objective is to serve God both ways. Even after achieving transformation, complete refinement of character, to the point that our outer desires are completely eradicated, we still want to benefit of the ordinary matzah, like the night of the Exodus, completely submission to God through effort and toil. And that's why I say even a tzaddik would sit at the Seder, he would eat the matzah like every Jew eats matzah. Ordinary flour and water matzah that has no taste. Because even the tzaddik, or all of us, that ultimately reach the level of becoming the wealthy matzah, we always want to connect the basic matzah, the matzah that has flour and water, the matzah that symbolizes the concept of humility, the matzah that symbolizes the concept of the struggle, overcoming the evil, turning darkness into light. That is symbolic of your simple matzah. And that's why I believe that Rebbe begged everybody that at least at the Seder, they should eat matzah shmura, handmade matzah, not machine-made matzah, but handmade matzah. Not saying that machine-made matzah is not kosher for Pesach, but handmade matzah is symbolic to this concept, to the concept of where we are in the struggle, where we need to use every part of our existence, not only the help of somebody else, but ourselves. With our own hands, we toil and make this matzah from a kernel to flour, from flour to dough, from dough to matzah, and we made sure that it was unleavened throughout this journey. Made sure that it stayed unleavened. It never rose, even though it had the capability to rise. And as I said before, Chabad not only is careful as it comes to the Seder, your table, but they make sure that it continues to stay unleavened. Not in your mouth. Once it gets to your mouth, it's over. The game is over. But until it gets to your mouth, it stays unleavened, and it only comes in your body when you have even turned it into something else. That's when you can. Until then, you're going to make sure that it's totally unleavened, and that's why we use specifically a matzah that could become leavened. As I said, from the time you cut it off until you ate it, could always become leavened. and you want dafka such a matzah that could become leaven, because you're not at the level of the Jew who has transformed his leaven, his own ego. You're the Jew that still struggles, like this matzah that still struggles. This matzah is still in the doubt. Will it stay on leaven? Will it not stay on leaven? Will it get mixed up with water and become leaven or not?
Still wine on the matzah.
Yeah, because most of your wine is not wine, okay? It's mostly water. It's not because of the wine, it's because of the water. Right. Those days, the wine was much stronger, because it was wine. Today, you made 5% wine, 7% wine. That means 93% is not wine. So whatever. So it's a whole different ball game. But beautiful sikh of the Rebbe. You'll understand now why you're eating matzah, and you'll hopefully have a different understanding when you sit down at the Seder and you eat this matzah. You make a brach on the matzah to realize what the matzah represents to each and every one of us. The struggle, that's why it's called lechem oini. It's the poor man's matzah. It's specifically the poor man's matzah, not because it's not expensive. It's not a poor man's matzah. Bread is much cheaper than matzah. But it's a poor man's matzah because it's symbolic to the struggling Jew, the Jew that's still poor. He's not the rich man who's overcome all his issues. He's a guy who struggles, whether it's health issues, financial issues, emotional issues, spiritual. We are a struggling nation. We're a nation that still struggles, and we'll never forget that struggle. We'll never forget that because it's something beautiful. The Eibishter enjoys that a Jew that struggles still overcomes his struggles, does the right thing. God bless you all. We're not going to have next week a Seder.
Amen.
So two things I'm asking you. I'm not going to have Seder. Next week, hopefully you'll all be by your Seder. I want to just mention that as I mentioned before, the Lubavitch Rebbe wanted everybody should have Shmur Matzah. So therefore, we have over here Shmur Matzah. You want to give to your friend, a person that you know that doesn't have Shmur Matzah, you can come and take it from here and give it to somebody who you know might need Shmur Matzah. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. I wish you a beautiful Pesach or Mitzvah. Come back the Thursday after Pesach to continue this class. And there's new books, and hopefully you'll get those new books if you're on Zoom. And I wish you all a caution and a feilach in Pesach.
So there's no class on Sunday either, right?
No, there's no classes next week, and we'll come back together after Pesach.
Oh,
The
you'll be
Chitas
around.
class will continue. The Chitas class I'll continue.